What's up, everybody? Dr. Josh here, and today we, the social animal, are going to talk about social comparison through an evolutionary lens and the impact of social media, the possible impact of social media on body image, and what we can do to mitigate that impact on our evolved psychological machinery. As always, if you like or find this information interesting, want more, like, subscribe, share with a friend. And then our friendly disclaimer, none of this is a replacement for therapy. I am a therapist, not your therapist, at least I hope not. But if you need assistance, please utilize your local resources, or if you're in crisis, 988. They will jump on the phone with you and they'll help you out. Let's get to the show. I find it helpful to start with some definitions. So, body dysmorphia, and this is just paraphrasing from DSM, preoccupation with perceived deficits or flaws in appearance. Number 2, repetitive behaviors or mental acts like mirror checking, grooming, assurance seeking from other people related to your concerns about your appearance. Number 3, and this is the most important thing that you'll find actually not only in this diagnosis, but in most other diagnoses, distress and dysfunction. Now, for something to be considered disordered, it's got to cause some level of distress and possibly dysfunction in areas of social, vocational, educational, or other areas of functioning. So you have to be disturbed about what's going on. It has to bother you. It has to cause you some cognitive or emotional stress. It has to be causing distress in your relationships. You have to, it has to be impacting work negatively. Perhaps you're not getting work done. School negatively, like if you're so concerned about getting to the gym and fixing your calves. God, we all need to fix our calves. But if you're so concerned with a physical, we'll just call it physical flaw, like let's say calves or something like that, that you skip classes, you don't make it to class, you don't turn in assignments, then might be creeping up on some dysfunctional behaviors. Now, does this necessarily mean you have body dysmorphia, muscle dysmorphia, anything like that? No, it does not. But when you're starting to, if you want to develop a heuristic or a mental shortcut for this, begin noticing if you're feeling distress or you're not functioning like you used to function in a particular important area to you. You know, could be school, could be work, could be family, could be friends. And then just begin assessing like, oh, there might be something going on here. Just begin asking yourself questions. Also, this sort of phenomena going on is not better explained by an eating disorder. So there's that. And then with muscle dysmorphia specifically, since, you know, we're in the physique realm. I'm a physique and bodybuilding coach. I compete in natural bodybuilding. So we have muscle dysmorphia, and it's just a subtype of body dysmorphia, and it's everything mentioned above, except the perceived flaw is just not being muscular enough. Now, I mean, I don't know if that was just the definition. I would probably fit it if it's just not being muscular enough. I mean, I think the important thing here is looking at like how much distress and dysfunction is my perception that I need to, I need to bring up my quads and hamstrings just because I haven't been able to train them as effectively as I would have liked over the years. Well, I mean, it's not causing me much distress. I want to bring them up. I mean, comparatively to just the general population, I mean, they might be big, but bodybuilding, are they bodybuilding big? No. I want to bring them up, but it's not causing me distress, and it's not causing me to not do my notes at work. It's not causing me to do various other things. So there has to be some kind of distress and dysfunction related to it. Again, if any of this sounds like you, please get off this video and go talk to a professional. And look, hey, therapy is not for everybody, but everybody should give it a shot at some point to see if it's for you. How are you going to assess if something's for you if you don't even just try it out? Worst case scenario, you don't like the person, you can get out of there. So moving on to the sort of social media evolutionary lens aspect of this whole thing, my hypothesis is that a large increase in the prevalence of body dissatisfaction is related to media and social media exposure. Now, that's not going to be surprising to some of you. I know it's going to be like, yeah, so what? Right. 100%. what we have to begin doing here is looking at where I'm interested in, why is that impacting us? So through an evolutionary lens, let's talk about a guy named Nico Tinbergen. Now, he developed or created a way of looking at phenomena through an evolutionary lens, and this has various levels of analysis. So you have the proximate level of analysis. So in the proximate level, two categories: ontogeny, or the individual development. So how a person develops over sort of their lifespan. So there's that. And then you have mechanism. These are traits, current in anatomy, and how they work. So you have ontogeny, mechanism. And those are proximate levels. So that's what's going on in the here and now, what traits we have here and now, and how we develop as people here currently. The second level of analysis, again, two quadrants, is the distal or ultimate level, and you have phylogeny, how we came to our current form from a species level of analysis. So not how the individual developed, but how we developed over the last 200,000 years as a species. So you have that level of analysis. And then adaptation. So how certain traits interacted with the environment to influence fitness, how these adaptations sort of came about. So you have two levels of analysis that I don't think we consider, especially not much in mental health, that can help explain behaviors and phenomena. Adding another layer to that, Dunbar. Dunbar's number, for those of you who haven't heard, basically gives us a cap for how many people, let's say if we grew up a few, like 100,000 or plus years ago, how many people we would have interacted with over the course of our life. Not like in a year, the first 5 years, 10 years, like over the course of our life. And the number that Dunbar came to was 50 to 150. I'll try and put the link in the description for that paper, but just so Dunbar's number is 50 to 150. That is how many people someone who of our species would have interacted with 100,000 years ago. Like at the top, 150 people. Now remember, there was no social media back then. There was no news back then. There were no phones. There's no telegraph. Nothing. The only way you communicated with somebody was face to face, and that is the environment in which most of our cognitive, evolved psychological mechanisms evolved in. So our current environment creates certain kinds of mismatch. Now let's move on to social media and what I'm thinking here. So what is social media's role in impacting body dissatisfaction and mental health? I have a big 5 list. This isn't an exhaustive list. These are just some things that I am thinking about. So number 1, influencers. Basically anyone who showcases their fitness journey and amasses a large following. So there's sort of a meta issue with influencers, and that is algorithms. So these algorithms, they're not trained to get us the best information. They are trained to get us what we keep our eyes on the longest, because that's how companies monetize our data. That's it. These algorithms are just trained to help companies keep our eyes on the screens for longer so that they can sell us stuff. So that's one. These algorithms are also optimized for people you like, not people with the most expertise. Now, not to say that I have, the most expertise or even near the most expertise in terms of physique and bodybuilding. There's so many more people who have way more expertise than that. I just like talking about this shit. But these algorithms are optimized for who you like to watch. Now, you might be able to pick out the experts, and that's great. And I think a lot of people, most people are intelligent enough to pick out people who know things and people who don't know things. But the algorithms are going to be optimized in things like YouTube and things like Instagram for people we tend to like. Number 3, backing up to influencers again, I think there's also this idea of an unsustainable look. And these things that are advertised like, eat anything, abs year round. This one trick, this hack. Now, in the previous video, I talked about, maintaining a shredded physique, but that shredded physique is different for everybody. A shredded physique, I should have sort of couched and caveated things in that the shredded physique could be 10 to 12%, and that's it's like maintainable for guys, or in the 15 to 20% range for women. But I think it's overly lean and absolute terms that are discussed by some influencers, not all, that they sort of advertise, that sort of, it gives us information that's unuseful and, in worst case, harmful. Number 4, celebrities who are influencers. Now, these people I don't like. Wow. English. Hey. They push products sometimes, and pushing of products, using celebrity, using expertise to push particular products, I think can get messy really quickly. These people are on the, generally speaking, the upper end of attractiveness, which research has shown develops as sort of a halo effect. So we attribute good things to these people, trustworthy things. Honestly, there are a lot of things I think that I've tried, possibly because I like the people who are selling them. I think so. Over at RP, over at Renaissance Periodization, like I like Dr. Mike and I like Jared, and they came out with the RP Hypertrophy app, and shit, I mean, it's a great product and you should go out and you should buy that. But I think a big part of the reason that I was pushed to buy that product was because I like them. Now, they might not be like super high-end celebrities, but to me, in the fitness realm, like they're two people who, pop up a lot. They are known. And so I was more likely to buy the product. Now, I find their expertise to be credible and also adding to my decision to buy that product, but it's still a thing. Like, it was somebody I liked and their expertise, and it made me buy a product. So you have to pay attention to that. So number 1 was influencers, with a whole bunch of those subcategories. Number 2, likes and validation. Social media can be addictive because we get a lot of likes and validation. Now, I don't do the social medias very well. I'm trying to. But one thing I see in that is there is reinforcement for particular things. So when you get likes for a post, when your post gets shared, when you get good comments, you get reinforced. Or the chances of that behavior continuing into the future increase or go up. Now, in psychology, there's this thing called intermittent reinforcement, and I think we all know what this is. It's like a slot machine, and this is one of the most powerful ways to get reinforced for a particular behavior. Now, if you think about the slot machine example, do you get rewarded every time you pull a handle? No, not really. It's intermittent. You can't really predict when it's going to happen, but when you do, you get a really, really big hit of good hormones that keep you locked in. And, some people stay locked into those machines without eating or drinking for hours and hours and hours. And I think social media sort of acts in this way. When we get likes, when we share, we get reinforced, and it drives us to keep doing that behavior. So if we begin posting things like staying ripped year-round, there's this unconscious process that goes on that tells us like, oh shit, I get so much more likes whenever I post pictures of me getting ripped, or before and after of me getting ripped, or just generally my shredded pictures get more likes or shares or things like that. And I think largely it's an unconscious process. I don't think people are going around just like sort of doing the math on I get more likes this or that way, but it's something we should try and be aware of, that whenever we're sharing, we can be reinforced by social media, and it might not be reinforcing the thing that is most effective for our long-term goals. So being aware and paying attention to that. Number 3, another way social media, I think, affects sort of our body image and our like or dislike for our body image: bullying, body shaming, and just general shittiness. Now, I wasn't really aware of the types of bullying that went on in, things like YouTube or Instagram. I mean, I guessed. I had a pretty good guess. But social media is pretty much like the Wild West. People can get away with saying like a lot of shitty stuff. And if we go back to that evolutionary lens, like the Dunbar's number, like if you imagine like 50 to 150 people throughout the course of your life, how many of those people are going to be like in your age group? Like at best, like what, like 20, 30%? So of like, let's say let's say it's 100 people, so like 25 to 30 people are going to be in your age range, possibly. Now you fast forward it to now, and you have just unlimited access to people of all various age ranges and levels of shittiness across the interwebs, and that amount of people can tell you you look like shit, or that amount of people can support you, hopefully give you supportive messages. But there's going to be a small percentage of the population which can have sort of this outsized voice, and because there are no consequences. There are no consequences for anonymous accounts to be shitty on the internet, which can lead to a lot of negative emotions and feelings on the part of people who are just, who are on here trying to do good things, or not even trying to do good things, just, trying to share with family and friends. So bullying, body shaming, and general shittiness, that is another aspect of social media that can impact, where I feel, just my general feelings, impact body image and possible things like muscle dysmorphia negatively. Number 4, filters and Facetunes, other things that people share. These things certainly didn't exist in our ancestors' environment. You saw a person, and that was it. That's all you got. You saw a person. Now we have shit like filters and Facetunes, so you take 1,000 pictures, and then you pick the best one out of 1,000 pictures, and then you apply another filter on it, and it makes it not even you anymore. So we have these unrealistic views, and whether we are conscious of it or not, there is a consistent sort of social comparison that is going on that I think negatively impacts our mental well-being quite a bit of the time. So filters and Facetunes give us this unrealistic view of what people are actually look like, what they're actually doing with their lives. And it's also very curated. So you're not seeing people at their worst, you are seeing people at their very best. Lastly, again, I think I've said this multiple times throughout this, but social comparison in general. In our ancestors' environment, we were comparing ourselves to maybe, probably people of our age range. I don't think we were comparing ourselves to people much younger than us. Like, I'm not comparing myself to my 3 and 2-year-old sons. Like, I don't think that's going on. I'm also not comparing myself to people who are my mother's age, nearing 60. I'm not really doing that. We compare ourselves to people who are like us, or who are similar to us. It's largely an unconscious process. And now that number has ballooned from, looking at this environment of evolutionary adaptiveness, another big word, EEA. So our ancestors' environment, where we had a limited number of people our age that we were comparing ourselves to, 20, 30, 45, let's even say 50. Let's say half the people we ever saw in our lives were our age. Probably not the right proportion. But let's say it was 50. That's 50. How many people around our age do we see online now? It's crazy. The amount of social comparison that we're able to do is I believe that it is impacting our mental health negatively. So, just something to keep in mind there. What can we do about it, though? I think there are a few things here that I won't get too far in depth in now, but later videos I will. What can we do about it? Number 1, developing psychological flexibility. Talked a little bit about this in the first video, but there are 3 pillars here. And the 3 pillars of psychological flexibility are be present, open up, and do what matters. Pardon me. So being present and aware with our 5 senses in the here and now. Being open to difficult experiences. So those are the emotions and thoughts that sort of come along with things. And doing what matters has to do with our values and committing to action that gets us towards our goals. I think those 3 pillars of psychological flexibility will help more than anything. Number 2, comparing ourselves to ourselves. Now, there are times when we get injured, times when it's unhelpful to compare ourselves to ourselves, but when we compare ourselves to ourselves, we are able to iterate from previous forms of ourselves. Like, I am comparing myself to the last time I was on stage. Now, I'm a bit older than the last time I was on stage, so I have to have a sort of a realistic view about that. But if I'm comparing myself to myself, it is something I can actually change and is in my control. I'm not in control that that I'm not somebody else. I mean, that's entirely out of my control, that I don't have somebody else's shoulder genetics, or I don't have somebody else's glute genetics or anything like that. Comparing yourself to yourself allows you to iterate and change over time. Number 3, know who to follow. I think this is a big thing. So whenever we're trying to figure out what the best thing to do is, or how we should go about training or dieting, or how we should judge ourselves accurately, we should really know who to follow. And some people I like to follow: Dr. Eric Helms, 3DMJ, the Mass Journal, which is fantastic; Dr. Mike Israetel over at Renaissance Periodization; Dr. Brad Schoenfeld, godfather of hypertrophy, most published researchers in that area; Alan Aragon, he has his own newsletter, which is fantastic. And then Cliff Wilson, he was my prep coach, and so he also puts out good information, has generated tons of pro cards, and those would be 5 people to begin following, and I think would help in terms of, just your fitness journey in general. Number 4, understanding what is in and out of our control. Again, I've harped on this before, but it goes back to, once you know what's in your control, you can focus on that. Once you know what's out of your control, you can ignore that shit and put it to the side. And then number 5, seeking professional help if needed. Look, again, I'm a therapist, not your therapist, but I do see a need out there. Sometimes, this this fitness and bodybuilding journey it has a cost. There's a trade-off. It's not great because it's all good all the time. There are some low points, and for some of us, myself included, there were some low points that I could have used someone to talk to professionally. So if you ever feel like you need to talk to somebody, it's low stakes. Obviously, insurance and things like that aside, you don't have to come back if you don't gel with the person. That's not the way it works. It's not a forced choice. And resources aside, seek professional help if you feel like you need it. So, the recap and summary of this episode: influencers can give us unrealistic expectations for what we can look like, how sustainable a desired look is, and how to get there. Number 2, likes and validation are powerful motivators for continued behavior, not belief updating. Number 3, the internet is the Wild West. It's the low cost for bullying, and it perpetuates being mean, which leads to low self-esteem, which leads to possibly body image disturbance. So that's how that all connected, if I didn't outline that earlier. Number 4, we always see are curated lifestyles. 1 out of 1,000 pictures plus filters and Facetunes equals unrealistic expectations and dissatisfaction with ourselves. And number 5, it's just more opportunity for social comparison. So the bigger the sample is for us to compare ourselves to, the more dissatisfaction there could be. So through that evolutionary lens, and then the things to fix or the things to do to help get past these: developing psychological flexibility, be present, open up, do what matters, compare yourself to yourself, know who and what to pay attention to, understand what's in your control, seek professional help if needed. Guys, if this helped, remember this channel is about the philosophy, psychology, and physique and how they all interact. Next episode is going to be about emotional eating while dieting. Ooh. If you're interested in coaching, forms link will be in the description. If you're looking for a goal, if you're looking for your first big goal, the OCB Mind Muscle Classic will be in Huntington, West Virginia, April 19th, 2025. That link will be in the description soon, but if you're looking to compete and you want something to strive for, get to that show, and I hope to see you there. Like, subscribe, share, and as one of my supervisors used to say, take what's useful and leave the rest.